Welcome to the Driving Change podcast on the Evergreen Podcast Network, where we live at the intersection of neuroscience and storytelling. If you love great stories and you love understanding the mindset it takes to be a world-class change agent, then join us as our fascinating guests from all walks of life unpack their unique journeys of perseverance and passion, of expertise and experience, and be inspired to use your own story to drive change. Welcome back to another episode of Driving Change. I'm Jeff Bloomfield, and every week we get to sit down with the leaders and visionaries who are rewriting the rules of what leadership, innovation, and impact look like in today's world. Before we get started today, a quick thank you to our season sponsor, BrainTrust, recently recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing small businesses. Their neuroscience-based coaching and communication tools are helping leaders and teams unlock clarity, connection, and real performance. Learn more at braintrustgrowth.com. So today's guest is going to bring a lot of perspective to a topic we haven't covered a lot on this show. It's everything from you're ever going to want to know about AI to quantum computing, to the fact that you should pre-order your robot now. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we're going to get into with today's guest, Chris Brock. And Chris Brock is one of the, I would call him, foremost authorities on AI and even new stuff around quantum. He has a vast background, experiences, and perspective, helping blend enterprise-level tech from companies like P&G and JP Morgan Chase and Coca-Cola, also with this mission-driven purpose of empowering an entire people group. And that's also exactly what he's doing as the Chief Information Security Officer for the Piqua Shawnee Tribe of Alabama and founder of Primary Hosting and his new company, Quantum Proof, which is coming out. I mean, this guy is like Elon Musk meets Forrest Gump. I can't keep track of him. He's running all over the place. He's pioneered what's called sovereign AI, a movement to create technology that protects culture identity while enabling innovation, security, self-determination, building bridges with Fortune 500 strategies and tribal communities. And we all this together with his philosophies from great influencers like philosophical minds like Noam Chomsky and Lev Vygotsky. This guy's going to blow your mind. I can't wait to get into it. I'm thrilled to have today the man, the myth, the AI legend in studio, Chris Brock. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. What a great intro. A little much. I'm not that interesting, but I'm excited to share some stuff about AI that I've learned sort of at this front seat over the last few years.
It's been good getting to know you and learning what you are bringing to the table. Now, what I liked about you the first time we met was you don't communicate your vast depth of knowledge in such a way that makes me feel dumb. Because you're so smart at this stuff. Sometimes people can talk 8 miles over your head, and you really have a great way of making it relatable and understandable. So that's what I'm hoping we're going to get into today. So don't blow it.
Okay, great. The bar is very high.
So the first question is just let's get to know you a little bit. Take us back to your origin story. Where you come from, where'd you grow up, who are your influences, and how in the world did you get into this channel and the path that led you down this become this tech guru that you become?
Great. So I grew up in Ohio, liked it. When I went to college, I was able to play sports, played basketball. So I went to New York, played a little bit. First day of practice, realized that I better figure things out in life. Basketball is not the calling. I was enabled to be in student government. And in student government, I built my first thing in technology, which was at the time just like a WordPress blog website. And I was really excited that I built something technological. But talking about leadership, I was really interested at that point of student leadership. How can you create leadership values that can be transferable, especially in the college environment where there's such a quick turnover? And what I found, I was voted to be the student trustee of the college. And that's when I really saw the business side of leadership and student leadership at the college level. I saw that there was long-term impact, but I also saw that there was a lot of opportunities out in the business realm. Building this software for colleges, which was sort of like a student life group solution, I was also lived on Long Island at the time, and I shared with the people I worked with. I worked at a wedding catering hall, and so this is way back when I was going to school 4 days a week and working 3 days a week. They told me that if I would do something like I did for college for wedding vendors, I'd make a lot of money. And I was like, how great is that? I want to make some money. So I sort of got started right when social, mobile, and local hit the scene. So social media, mobile phones, and local capabilities. And with that, Facebook opened up its ads API. And this was very early on, like right when Facebook started a business model, they enabled people to buy ads, but they didn't really have a lot of information about us. But what they did have was your geolocation, your gender, and your relationship status. And being in the wedding world at that time, this was perfect for the community that I built and lead generation. It quickly went from trying to help out some wedding vendors and students to getting into a startup called App Addictive with Michael Ongai. He was the number 3 guy at GeoCities, and he opened up a company called App Addictive to build Facebook applications. This was in Silicon Alley in New York City. And I was one of the first people to go to him and just said, hey, I want to white label your tool. Why don't you let me do that? He ended up giving me an offer, and I became a full-time employee at App Addictive. We ended up with 10 million Facebook fan page app installs, so that scaled pretty well. We got into ad tech pretty heavily, so buying ads on social and search engines. We also got into loyalty. So we launched a product in Rome, Italy in, I want to say 2011 or 2012 that turned likes into leads and leads into loyal customers. So with that, it was some really great growth and experience that I went from weddings to like major enterprises very fast. Once 2015 hit, I sort of looked at opportunities in technology and wanted to start primary hosting. So I started primary hosting about a decade ago. I partnered with Mike and started primary hosting to be able to be a cloud brokerage platform. I saw so many people that needed technology, but they didn't really know how to implement it for their industry. And there's always a good, better, best with technology. And I always viewed it as like a living thing. So how could you provide the best value to these companies based upon their needs and budget and capabilities? So I was able to do that. Scaled that fairly decently. COVID hit and realized that working with a lot of businesses may not be sustainable. It changed the whole world, not just my business, everyone's business. So I rolled back into a little bit of my roots. I am an enrolled citizen of the Pikwishani tribe. So started really examining ways to possibly get into government contracting. Also, the government started opening up opportunities like becoming a CISO for the tribe. So I sort of adopted that as well.
That's just for the listeners. CISO's Chief Information Security Officer.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So was able to do that, but technology didn't change. Like from what I was doing in like the late 2010 timeframe to 2022, it was almost very similar. There was some glimpses of AI with IBM Watson, but nothing that I had experienced that was like that moment in November of 2022 with ChatGPT. I was one of the first 1 million users of ChatGPT. We were actually already using some AI components for some other projects with the API, and I was sort of thinking that this was going to work, and it was pretty impressive. So when ChatGPT hit, I was so impressed that I got more work done the first week of December than I think I've ever gotten done in an entire year. So I started a Facebook group called AI for Business and Life. It was called ChatGPT for Business and Life at the time. And it's grown now to 300,000 members. But early on, I just invited a bunch of my friends. And from that, a lot of the software developers that were really changing the world started joining this Facebook group. And it gave me this front row seat of what the transition of AI would be. So from that, I started really diving into learning AI, seeing what platforms are out there, learning everything in the news cycle every day about AI for the last 3 years. I've sort of read, seen, been a part of, and not just through my own curation, but through this community. So it's really been a magical experience. I still operate primary hosting. One of our major goals is to put containerized data centers on tribal land. I think that's a very important concept. And now with the advanced AI compute, like Cerebras or NVIDIA, you can have some really impressive technology on premise. And the other opportunity that I've seen is in the quantum realm. When I was in college, I was interested in philosophy. I was really interested in mathematics and this thing called phenomenology. And I shelved that for a very long time. AI has enabled me to open that back up and start down this path with quantum proof, which we hope will be a solution to secure all of our digital life once quantum computers hit, which seems right around the corner.
When you say right around the corner, because I think I do want to get into the AI piece and walk up there, but the quantum piece is all really fascinating to me. What do you think, timeline on the quantum computers?
I think it already exists. I think that Microsoft just announced like 3 weeks ago that they discovered, I won't even say created, they discovered a new matter property, like a plasma-ish photon, like so a whole new type of science, a whole new discovery.
Is that the marijuana thing?
No,
What's it called? Marijuana? What's it called?
The
Marjane? Or there's a name for it.
I don't know. You're gonna
maybe that's not the Microsoft one. That might be the Google one. I think it is. They named so it's a fourth, right? It's a fourth
yes. We'll have
matter, and it's got a.
I have to Google this one.
Yeah, I forget. It's got I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, so that's gonna. You think that's gonna accelerate now the timeline to the quantum computing becoming
more realistic. There's other companies out there that have focused on quantum computing. I mean, for 20 years, for sure, there's been a lot of work done, but you now see all the big tech companies making their way into quantum, building quantum computers, being able to build circuits that are doing unique things. And I think it will be something we see within 5 years everywhere, and probably at a level where we got to be more concerned. Right now, are they creating the quantum computers? Yes. Are the quantum computers able to be coded on? Yes. IonQ, I code into their system. IBM has a quantum computer that you can get, even if you're a startup, about 10 minutes a month to use their platform. So there's quantum that exists. It's just now finding the use cases. The scenarios that are awesome would be finding new pharmaceuticals and finding new ways to solve very hard problems. The scary things are, how do you break RSA encryption? How do you have this open door into all servers? And that is right around the corner as well.
Let's see if we can dumb this down. It has to be for me, but in the old world with the way computers process with bits, it's almost like it's a binary 0-1, like it's an open gate, closed gate kind of thing as it goes through processes, almost one step at a time. You're either a 0 or 1 kind of idea. And this is me. You got to correct all this, right? And then now suddenly quantum comes in, and we're like, hey, wait a minute. It could be a 0 or a 1. It could be it could be either. It's in a different realm. So therefore, it can process information at a quadrillion times faster than a typical, binary, if you will, bits processing. Did I get any of that right?
Yes, definitely. The way that I like to think about it is, remember doing like a maze with a pen or pencil, like when you were younger, and you're just doing this maze, and you're going through this maze, and you get to a wall, and then you got to turn around and go back and try to find your way through this maze. Imagine these quantum computers will get to this fork in the road, the fork in the maze, and they can go both directions at one time and explore every direction it hits as that new decision tree sort of comes before it. And then when it actually gets all the way through the maze, it can then say this was the correct way through, the correct path, and tell us which is the correct path.
How does quantum computing work differently than standard traditional computing?
There's several ways that it's much different. The idea of the medium is even different. We are now at this. Cerebras makes the largest silicone chip. It's 8 inches by 8 inches, and it's maxed out the material, let's say, of silicon. Like NVIDIA makes an amazing chip. There's all these companies that make great chips, but their medium is now maxed out. It can't process any better than what it's processing. It may have some math that makes an algorithm work a little bit better, but they've maxed out the capacity of what they can create. With quantum, it opens up a whole new realm of capability where the traditional bandwidth and capabilities of silicon are changed definitely when you get into this photon-driven compute, where the amount of size and scale is still it's even unknown. They call them qubits, and we're starting to see companies build significant processing with these sort of light photons and these quantum circuits. That it's a whole new science, but it's a whole new medium. That's what makes it so much different.
I think that's what's got me intrigued. And again, you can, it's not really conspiratorial. It's the idea of exploratory of the quantum realm is almost, you almost have to like subscribe to this multiverse thing because we don't know where it's going. Like we don't know why you have these qubits that disappear and until they're observed, they can go somewhere and come back with all this new information. I can't even do it justice. It's almost like it's not processing information in the same dimension that we're living in and somehow doing it at mass scale. Is that even, I mean,
So
help bring this into some kind of semblance of understanding for us morons out here.
So for me, how I was able to sort of jump into quantum was really from pure mathematics.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, so I created a a new manifold or a new way to sort of understand how numbers may work. Traditionally, you think like, let's say you're thinking of like zeros to infinity, and it's usually a straight line forever. My sort of thesis was that what if this is a curved line, not a straight line? And what if it's curved on a fivefold axis, which it's hard to visualize when you're hearing it, but imagine sort of like this pentagon shape with at the center, it just has 5 rays coming out. And you just sort of put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just spiral around. When you do that, you're able to see pattern analysis of combinations of numbers that you can't see if you just think of it in this linear 0 through infinity. So by coming through this way of mathematics, we were able to get a couple interesting things that haven't been around previously. Oddly enough, I feel it's more of a discovery, but we were able to sort of map where prime numbers would be. Okay, so with that, we were able to build some algorithms that no longer utilize the method that they're doing right now in cryptography with prime numbers. Ours is it's slightly different because we just have a completely different approach than what was used before. With that, we're able to know where sort of primes fit. So we are not like some of the other companies like RSA just picks a very large number, a very large prime number, and says it's very hard to compute. So since it's hard to compute, it'll be hard to guess. That's our current status. Well, if you have a quantum computer that could rapidly map prime numbers, you're going to be able to go through encryption very fast. If all your defense is, I'm picking some very large numbers. So with our method, we feel that there's a different capability of hiding if you know where prime numbers would exist. And that sounds very esoteric and strange, but what rounds back to like where we were talking about this spooky action at a distance. With our model, and it's sort of this spinning layer. We even have like a new wave function, which is sort of interesting. What we found is that the way that numbers can sort of move, that I can't tell you like where the number 3 would be on my model until I would find out what this number way down the number line is. Then I could tell you where 3 exists. But until then, it's sort of like the best way to picture my model would be think of a 0 point right in the center and then like a little bubble that would be 1 and 1 unit around that 0 point. Then outside of it, 2 units away from 0 point would be another bubble and another bubble and another bubble. Let's say on that 3 line, the 3 can be anywhere on that bubble, but I can't tell you where it's at till you tell me or we find that larger number. So it can be everywhere, and we can't really know where it's at till we know the answer. So very much like that. This is getting deep. The dual sort of wave particle duality. I think numbers work like that, very similar.
So at this point, someone's probably pulled over the side of the road to shove a pencil in their eye.
Yes.
They have no idea what we're talking about. But to bring us back to practicality, what you're getting into there, if you look at today's cybersecurity and the platforms that are built on to protect our data today, whether it be your password at your bank or fill in the blank, everything we use every day, it's all built on a system that it's hard to crack based on the computing power of those trying to crack it, because it has to go through a bunch of algorithm and rigmarole to figure out how to crack it. But it's crackable. At some point, you can crack it. It just takes, some of it might take almost infinity time. It's so well designed. You're saying in the future, quantum computing is so ridiculously fast and able to process in so many different directions at one time. Our current infrastructure of security is none of it safe, including the blockchain, unless we're able to identify a different way to force that could actually force quantum computers to not be able to solve for it because of all the different mechanisms it has to go through. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Very well. Nice way to like bring that back in. So,
well, I just want to make sure because I think, you hear a lot about, look, people are getting hacked all the time now. So obviously people are like, yeah, I've had my identity stolen 15 times. So it can't be that good today. So imagine if quantum computers were out. I mean, the hackers would be able to hack everything I own in 10 seconds. It wouldn't even be an exercise. So I think when you add AI, the component of AI to quantum capabilities, that's like now steroids on top of steroids, right? On top of steroids. So the way that AI works today and without quantum computing is it's still an LLM, right? It's a large language model that's learning as it goes. What's the evolution of AI without quantum first? And then let's play hypothetical with quantum.
So I think there's some ideas of quantum that created AI. I mean, you obviously study brain science. So when you think of like the neurological correlates of consciousness, we're sort of trying to replicate that with computers, which is pretty cool. That's beyond like a normal physics, I believe. That's more of pushing towards that quantum realm. With the way the words are all stored and all this information stored and how it can recall and bring up information, I think that's closer, almost like Schrodinger's cat. You don't know if it's alive or dead in this box in physics. Well, you don't really know what the AI is going to promote until you prompt it, but it exists. When it doesn't exist, it's in this superposition of information, but it's not until we prompt it does the AI bring it back out to us. So there's some really interesting correlates there. Now, when quantum comes out, I think that it's going to be a very interesting world because there's so many ways we could be hacked when quantum happens, but the hack could start now. So what you'll see is that there's these scrapers that are online and they just ping IP. So they sort of catch something, they hit something, maybe they can't even encrypt it. They're harvesting it now, just holding it in hopes that quantum's going to come out and they decrypt it. So imagine something that it might be old information, but because they harvested it today, they can decrypt it later. So that's a big issue. There's also issues with key generation. So you have your safe of information. How do you give keys to each other that are safe and not easy to crack? And that's been something that keys have always been important, but I think that's going to be something that'll be accelerated with AI and it'll be accelerated with quantum.
And those who are doing crypto now know the key because they're using that for their, what are those, 26, is that right? Combinations of letters, numbers and all that. They're the keys for your wallet, your cold storage or whatever, right? So people that are listening might be familiar with that. That's a newer level within the last, how long? The keys.
Well, the key is probably 10 years, I guess 15 years.
In the last 10, 15 years, that's been a new way of protecting information. And a lot of us don't even use that, but those who are probably familiar with crypto they have to.
Sure.
For the blockchain. But you're saying that's like child's play for quantum.
It is. Like there's some things that, and I don't know if we're going to be the company that figures it out, but like random number generation is a very important concept, especially when it comes to blockchain and investments like that, because what would happen if that would get hacked? What would happen with the global liquidity market if blockchain or Bitcoin was able to be hacked and just modified, changed, moved with no protections? This isn't something that is far out. We're actually seeing it more on the equipment side today. So to bring it back to like what's happening today, SharePoint just 2 months ago had a major issue that if you weren't updated, and some of these companies are running end of life software, hardware, that they're using AI to penetrate and understand systems and write, I believe, new hacking mechanisms for zero-day exploits. So SharePoint got hacked, I believe.
What do you mean by zero-day exploits, just so people understand?
So a zero-day, you have all these protections that are supposed to be secure, and you have these barriers, and you might have firewalls in your organization. You may have these protections, these security layers that are supposed to make us like sleep well at night because, oh, it's secured. Well, that's secure until it's not. And a 0-day exploit means they didn't even have to really brute force attack it. Brute force would be, I know that there's a password that's going to let me in, and I'm just going to turn this machine on, and it's just going to try every password until your system boots me out. That's brute force. What 0-day exploits mean is they can send one exploit, one payload, and get right through your defenses immediately. And then they start to take over your entire organization, whatever they can get access to. And they're the scariest thing on the ransomware world is that it's starting to move beyond just like one individual actor or group. They're starting to have like ransomware as a service where companies
RAAS, is that right?
Yes, I mean
ransomware attack as service, like RAAS, is that
right? So imagine that and it's almost like an affiliate network that if you're able to sort of gain access into an organization, and these are big organizations, whether it's banking and finance or defense or nuclear or like any business that's doing, I don't know, $30 million a year or more is probably a target at this point. But what they're able to do is they're able to find an exploit, and they have these affiliates that are essentially trying to find these payloads to get past your defenses. And then once they're in, they have organizations on the dark web that will manage the entire ransomware communications with the organization that they hacked.
So you can't be traced back.
You can't be traced back, and they're doing a rev share, and they're doing it so often that the companies have a support ticket desk. So you go to it and you'd be like, hey, we were hacked. Obviously, it came over all of our workstations. It said go to this Tor network. And there's organizations that actually manage that conversation.
This is like digital Al Capone stuff, right? I mean,
big time.
An entire underworld mob for ransomware.
And it's working. And it's the sad part that I've seen is that it's almost working with impunity, because if you're an organization that gets hacked, you could call the FBI and Homeland Security. And some people, if you're listed on the NASDAQ or, some of these are reportable events, you have to report. I think Kettering Medical Center was a recent one just 2 months ago. With these attacks, they have to report it. But when they report it, that's different than actually working with Homeland Security or the FBI or whoever would be fixing this, because you're too afraid to take liability because you're a healthcare organization. That were you doing something wrong? Were you up to date? Did you patch everything correctly? Right. You're so worried about the insurance and the future lawsuits that you don't open it up for the FBI and the Homeland Security to investigate it, because you can be deposed by the government. The government could be, and share all the information they got through the evidence.
Then the litigation costs you more than the ransom.
Correct. Yeah, you could have just paid the ransomware $500,000 and they would. And this is the craziest thing. If you work with the ransomware actors, they'll give you the key to unlock all your information. They will show you that, hey, these are all the files that we have. Which one do you want to see? We'll share it with you. We're a real deal. They'll take the weekends off sometimes. Hey, we don't work the weekends. We'll begin our conversations on Monday again.
This is crazy.
And after that happens, was it just worth it to pay them off? Because they will say, you know what? If you're in our ransomware network and they hacked your company you paid, they promise they won't hack you again. Okay, so what type of weird code of honor that is. So long story short, it's a very crazy world. And I know these ransomware actors are using AI at the highest levels to figure out ways to penetrate these systems that we love and use absolutely every day. I don't know how it happened, but I think 16 billion passwords and usernames were hacked and released on the dark web about 2.5 months ago. And I think they said it was almost every major social media and big tech company. So
you get called in sometimes, right, to come in and help alleviate some of these ransomware attacks, right? That's one of the things you do, is come in and try to identify where they got in, how they got in, how to resolve the.
Well, the forensic side is that there's a whole bunch of work that goes into like the forensic side. We're more on the remediation side, and then honestly future proofing so you don't have this
Are you a
happen
ransom
again.
broker? Are you a negotiator? Is that what you're doing?
After seeing this, it seems like it's a very good business to be in, to be the ransomware broker,
Right. Just
but
take a
no.
cut, just take a percentage of what you saved them and your negotiation. 500,000. I'll tell you what, we'll do 400,000 and we'll wire it within 24 hours. Deal. And then you just saved 100 grand. You make 10%. You're good to go. You do that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Nice
I mean, it's
business.
a business model, obviously, so it's
Oh,
a scary world that we're in, but I think it's also exciting. So it's not all scary, but my heart knows that we have to be secure. So that's what quantum proof's all about. Like, how do we stay secure? We're sort of secure now ish every day. So how do we become
ish.
a little bit
Yeah.
better, that we have a little bit more confidence that we're just totally not open for a complete attack.
Well, let's pivot here toward as we got a few more minutes left. Let's pivot and just go into the practical everyday Jane, everyday Joe. How would you recommend they think about and utilize AI today? Whether they're in their workplace or at home, like what do you think is the most practical use of it? Is the getting involved in agents the thing to do now? Is it too sophisticated for the average user? Like, what would you recommend to the average person with AI?
This is one of my favorite questions. Like, I have AI for business and life. So we have a lot of newbies that are just starting with AI. I think the most important thing is to use it. This is not a technology that you find your CTO or you find a tech team to deploy. This is something you should have a personal engagement with, because over time it'll become a co-intelligence. I've been using all the major models, which would be ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, with Gemini, and then I even use some open source models. But by using the foundational models, you're given like a PhD in almost every subject in your pocket. If you're doing business strategy, you have McKinsey and Booz Allen in your pocket. You should utilize it. And the more that you're starting to utilize AI and the orders of magnitude, it gets better all the time, that if you're not paying the $20 or $30 a month for at least one model, you're missing out. You're also training a model if you're not paying. So there's a security measure that you may want to pay for a model. Now, once you're paying, there's a lot of security there. It's as secure as a Microsoft solution or SAP or anything else. So I think that you shouldn't be fearful that your secured data is being training on the model if you're paying for it, but you should pay for it. You should try to use it every day. You should try to learn ways that AI can go beyond just helping you out with email or writing a report. Maybe you can do pattern analysis. Maybe if you're using Claude, you can have it code for you. Now all the models are starting to code, but it's a little bit different between seeing like something put out a big wall of text of code versus like something like Claude or some of these AI code editors that are actually building code that you can interact with and play with. There's so many cool tools out there. I think that the foundational models are the first thing you should use. The next are like, how do you build a chatbot? I think chatbots, especially if you need a knowledge resource, they're great, easy solutions to build. They're easy to map. You might see them as GPTs in OpenAI's platform. They're really easy to build, but you can train an AI on your data set. So instead of starting from this general model every time we ask it a question, imagine training it on all your business data and then saying, hey, help me with my strategy, help me with my marketing. If you already have everything about your business sort of in this Google folder that you connected to a GPT, it's that simple, that you can then have it act on that data. So it's smarter, it's more tailored to your business or to you. So I think that's a big step. They moved up to something that's also called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. But like, how do you create a data point of your data first? That's something that I recommend everybody do. Put your data just even in a Google folder right now, or any place you can put your data in one place that you would like your AI to know. If you do that first, you can expand that pretty rapidly. What they're starting to do after that is from RAG to something called MCP. That's Model Context Protocol. That means I have this data, and how they visualize it is like a USB-C dongle for your computer. Imagine you have this dongle that if you had all your data on it about your business, you could just plug it in places and it could do things. Or you could have it plug stuff into it, like your Google Gmail account or your Microsoft Office 365 or your Slack or your project management tools. You can start plugging it into your data set. And when you do that, it's pretty powerful. And that's a good step. The next step beyond that then is if you've heard agentic AI. So agents, imagine saying, okay, well, you're the CMO agent. You're the CEO agent. You know what? You're an agent because we have special IP. You're looking at our IP and you're looking at science work, and you're just out there trying to find new IP for us. And then maybe you have a patent attorney like agent that's looking at what your CEO agent and your marketing agent have been talking about, but the engineering agent comes in and says, hey, this could be a new thing. Maybe your patent agent can say, you know what, you might be able to get a patent for this and help you out with your patent work. So I think you're going to see these agents that you can put to work on your data. And that's sort of like the AI swarms you're hearing about. And then the future will be how you can quasi build a super intelligence around your business. Now, I don't expect anybody to outside of big tech to build a super intelligence, but having a cognitive agent that knows your business probably better than you do data wise, but maybe not directionally as well as you do. But having an agent system like that will be the future, and it's here. It's something you can build, and believe it or not, you can probably do it in a few weeks' time without heavy lifting or heavy software skills. That's what makes it so interesting.
That's amazing. Last question on AI then, as we land the plane a little bit here. Where do you see the future going from the evolution of, the internet came out and everybody said it was the devil. And of course, like every technology, it can be used for good or evil, depending on whose motives behind it. And then, it became ubiquitous. So it was just everybody, people can't think of life without the internet. Nobody at this point, but that wasn't the case 30 years ago. And now AI is kind of following a little bit of a similar, I think, path, yet slightly different. One example would be how businesses operate. Where do you see the future of a Google or a search engine type? I mean, think about the billions of dollars Google built a business off of from the internet. Well, now you've got these AIs that people are going to information for. And so that's evolving the way, especially small businesses can almost create a level playing field if they know how to show up in AI versus the bigger businesses. Where do you see that going from a business application standpoint on where humans go to look for information? And if you have a business, how do you get in that stream of knowledge transfer versus the old way of Googling it?
That's a very difficult question for so many companies right now. There's a bloodbath of SEO. Google SEO is no longer a relevant thing. If you're paying for SEO for your websites, I would recommend changing course or reallocating your budget in a new way. The AIs, when they scrape your website, they do look at a sitemap, very similar to what Google search or Bing search when they look at your website. Like, how does your website rank? That is what AI is using to look at your website. So that's an important thing to understand. However, to be ranked in ChatGPT is now a gold mine because I've seen some graphs where it's doing more recommendations to businesses than Google is at this point. So with that, how do you rank in an AI? I think it's very tough to really determine what that means. How many places are you in? I know that Reddit happens to be a place where they were farming a lot of data from.
It's like one of the number one sources from what I saw in the last graph. I don't know if it still is or not, but.
So if your company was on Reddit, maybe in the last time they trained the AI model, you got a big boost where you didn't have before. Now, will that work in the future? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Reddit starts closing off their training data. So I think it's going to be rapidly evolving. I think the best thing, if you're in service-based businesses, how do you get AI to the front of your business where you have a concierge white glove AI chatbot on your website that understands the person coming in by enabling that person to ask questions and answering them, pushing them to the right place on your website to, set an invite for a meeting or a service call or that transactional feature. I think people are going to want that. So I think with AI, you're going to want to think about how you can integrate it into your supply chain where it doesn't stop the communication. It opens the door for communication.
That's great. Well, Chris, where can people go to learn more? I know you're involved in a lot of things, but where can they go to find the most useful information based on what you're working on today? So
if you want to learn about AI at a very easy level all the way to something a little bit more technical, AI for Business and Life, you can search that on Facebook. Will come right up. QuantumProofAI.com has some really cool overviews of what we're doing in the quantum space. And that's a great place to see us. Other than that, we're on all the social media networks. You can just sort of type in Chris Brock. I'll probably pop up.
That's amazing. And we didn't even get into all your math proofs and all the other stuff that you've done. I mean, this is crazy. So I would encourage you, if you're listening out there, look up Chris Brock and look up what he's doing. Look up his companies, get on Facebook, and the AI Tinkers group as well. I know it's a very popular group if you're really involved and want to be involved more in AI, learning from those folks in the Facebook group and all that. I mean, if you're out there today and this is not something if you're under the age of 80 and you're not trying to learn where this is going, you're probably going to be missing out on a huge opportunity, because I don't just mean that from a monetization standpoint. I mean that from just a life standpoint, because it's going to infiltrate every area of our life. If I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, would you agree? Last word for you.
100%. My kids use it every day. My grandparents, I've seen tinkering with it, so there's everybody's now using it. And I think that the use case will tailor around you. So you got to use it. If you don't, if you decide to sort of put your head in the sand, you're going to miss out on where the world's going rapidly.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, thanks for being on. And I think this is one we're going to have you periodically come back and update us as the world is moving so fast. It's like quantum speed it's going at. We'll have you come back and maybe update us every so often on what's going on out there.
Be happy to. Thanks so much.